Welcome back to the Sales Leader Show. Our guest today has a very unique career path that you're not likely to see again. Here's what I mean. He was married on a reality TV show. A documentary was made about one of the businesses that he started. He's the host of 2 successful YouTube channels, Jesse on Fire and Jesse on Everything. And he was the top performing rep at his previous company before he was fired for not taking the COVID vaccine. Now he focuses on creating killer content full time. Today, we're talking to Joe Rogan's future hunting buddy, Jesse on Fire. How you doing today, Jesse?
I'm excellent. Thank you for having me, good sir.
Oh, man, this is so fun. I'm actually, I'll be honest. I'm a bit. I don't know what you call it, but like when you meet someone that you've only known through their content or they're a celebrity or something. I'm kind of in that position right now where I'm like, dude, I feel like I know you, but we've obviously never met, so it's kind of weird.
That is the weirdest thing ever. Although, yeah, I mean, generally, the people that I like, I kind of end up knowing them. You know, where it's like if you have a feeling of what they're like, they're generally exactly like that. So it's like that's what I always say. The people who feel like they know me, they do.
Yeah, it makes sense. But it's got to be weird for you because you're like, it's a one-sided relationship.
No, I'm used to it, dude. I mean, it's like generally the people who like my content are people like me, so I tend to get along with everybody.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was kind of like blown away because I've been watching your stuff since you were about 3,000 subs
Oh,
on
nice.
Jesse on Fire. And it was hilarious, and we'll get into sales stuff in a second, but I'm going to geek out a bit with you. But it was pretty funny because I watched one of your episodes later on where you were like, "Hey, if you started watching me early on, you probably didn't like me, but you kept coming back, and that was intentional." And I was like, "Dad gummit, he got me, man. He totally got me." Because that was what it was. I was like, "Man, this guy seems like a kind of one of those jock tool bags." But I haven't heard that opinion before. I want to see what he has to say about this. And then the Fabia stuff happened. Right about the Fabia stuff, when that stuff started, I really started liking you. I was like, oh no, I totally get along with this guy.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's like building on YouTube is an incredibly challenging thing to do. Like I help a lot of people, or try to help them. Like they'll come to me and they'll ask for advice, and like, and I'm sure, you asked me to do this podcast and I responded in 3 seconds. I'm like, sure. And you're like, really? And I literally, everybody who reaches out to me, it's exactly like that. They're all, hey, can you help me with this girl I'm doing? And I just helped this guy who was, this guy had some girl he's in love with and things aren't going well. And so he's like, man, he like emailed me in the middle of the night. He's like, help me get her back. And I was like, all right, I'll help you, but here's how this is going to go. You have to follow my instructions to the letter. And he did. And then a couple days ago, he actually got the girl back. But like, and he's just like, I can't believe you did this. It's like, dude, I'm open for business, man. But like, but on the YouTube stuff, a lot of times people ask me, here's what I'm thinking I want to do. And now I'm in this position where I'm doing my best to help them, and simultaneously, I don't want to give them too much information and discourage them, because like for me, it was like ignorance was bliss. Like I didn't realize how hard it actually is. And I just think that I ended up having a very effective strategy that I think would be pretty challenging to duplicate. But I do my best to try to give them the the tools that they can use. But yeah, I mean, that what you described is definitely one of the strategies. It was like because I just thought about I just think about the process of creating content and as a competition in a couple different categories. So it's like the first one is, why is anyone going to click on your content? Like at any point they're looking at your stuff and your thumbnail and another 9. And so why would they choose yours? And then so that's like battle number 1. And if you win that, then it's like, okay, why are they going to watch past the first 20 seconds? And then you win that. And then it's like, why are they going to ever come back to your channel? And so I just really thought about all that. I'm like, all right, so what I think is going to be really effective is if I kind of alternate between just being myself, and then every once in a while just going over the top, super cocky, like overconfident, making predictions, because people will either like it or they'll be like, do we swear on this podcast?
We try to avoid it, but
So okay,
listen, if it slips out, it slips out.
Or they'll be like, F this guy. I want to
Yeah.
see him be wrong. And so they'll come back to see, to watch me, to be like, I want to catch this guy in something that ends up being wrong.
Exactly.
And it's just, yeah. And then, but if I'm only doing that 1 out of 4 videos, then the other 3 they're going to watch, they're going to be like, well, I thought I didn't like this guy, but maybe I do after all.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely intentional for sure.
Yeah. No doubt. I mean, it definitely worked. And when you explained it, I was like, I can't, like, I felt so, it was so weird, because it was like, that's exactly what happened with me. And I had no clue. Like, it wasn't, you know what I mean? Like, if someone was like, that's a strategy, I'd be like, no, that's not a strategy. But obviously I was wrong. So, all right. Well, I want to ask you about this. Like, there's so many things I want to talk to you about, but staying on the sales topic, and really what we do here is, as I kind of explained to you, we help. It could be anyone, really. I mean, this can kind of apply to anybody, but I think of it and talk about it through the frame or the mindset of a sales guy, because that's what I do. So, how do you think about your career in general? Like, what's something that maybe salespeople and maybe people in general, the way that they approach their career, what's a thing, a way they approach it, or a way they think about it, that maybe you passionately disagree with?
Disagree with.
Yeah. And the reason I ask that, I'll let you think on it for a sec, is I spent a lot of years just floating from job to job, not really having any intentionality or any direction, just sort of taking the jobs as they came. And I found a lot more fulfillment and also success once I said, no, I want to go this direction with my career. And I started being intentional about putting myself in situations and accepting opportunities that put me that way. So, that's kind of my experience with it. And I'm just curious, since you've had such a unique career, what have you learned along the way that you think a lot of people probably get wrong?
Well, I would agree with what you said 100%. And I think that comes back to like a broader way of looking at your career, which is, what do you really want? Look, what do you really want? And what are your goals? Because if you can't define that, then you're always going to be floating, whether you're doing sales or you're doing any other thing. And so, like, as an example, if a person is in a sales role, but what they really want to do is something that's not sales related, then they need to figure out a way to both balance achieving their goals and metrics in their sales job while simultaneously pushing and trying to do the other thing. But like if your goals need to be attainable. So it's like, if I want to be a starting point guard in the NBA. It's like, okay, guy, like maybe adjust the goals to something that could potentially happen in your life. And if a person's like, I mean, look, I'm going to be a career guy. I want to make a solid living, have some financial freedom and some freedom to be with my family. And so that's your high level goal. So, given the cards that you were dealt, you're a salesperson. What does that look like? What kind of company do you want to work for? What kind of role do you want to have? Do you prefer hunting for new organizations to do business with? Do you prefer account management? What kind of sales organization do you want to work for? And it's like, just visualize in your most detailed way of doing that. What does your goal look like?
Mm.
And then once you have that, then things just fall into place. I just think people don't define their goals. And so, I mean, that's where that floating comes from. And because
Mhm.
honestly, if you really think about it, it's like, okay, so, I mean, think of anything. I mean, one of the things that I was targeting when I was still doing sales, it's still may, honestly, I'm talking here, assuming that no one that's gonna, no one that would potentially hire me will see this. But like, one of the things that I was targeting was I was trying to work at AWS. So I interviewed at AWS for an account management role when I was very early in my enterprise software uh, career. I was
Yeah.
way underqualified for this role. Like, I mean, the whole time I couldn't believe I was there. It's a lot of money, dude. It's a lot of money, and it's like it's a lot of responsibility, and it's also a company where, like if you work for AWS, it's very different than a lot of organizations where it's like, okay, you're on target earnings if you hit your quota are XYZ. And so you're like, all right, well, like, and you work at a company where like 30% of people hit their number. Like if you work at
Right.
AWS, you're going to make your full OTE. It's like,
Wow.
you can't blow it out, like, you can't, like, let's say you were a, I don't know, 250K OTE person. Like you're not going to make, well, actually that would be low at AWS, but like in any other like enterprise software role, like say, enterprise or strategic account manager role or account executive,
Mhm.
like in some of those roles, if you do a big deal, I mean, you can make 7, 8, 900K. I know people who have done over $1 million a year in a sales role. Like that'll never happen for you at AWS. But you're
Mhm.
also never going to have a year where you make your salary plus 30%. You'll always get your OT. So like, I really wanted to work there because of the stability of it, the quality of the company. I really aligned with the company's values. Amazon has a set of leadership principles that they basically build their entire corporate culture around.
Mhm.
It's how they interview. Every single question that they're asking you, they're looking to see how your answers align with their leadership principles. And anyway, so in my initial interview, I got to the final step by some miracle, and I did this round robin interview where you interview with 4 people and they vote, and one person has 2 votes because that's the hiring manager, and I got 2 votes to hire, 2 votes not to. And man, I bombed those interviews, the ones where they which is not really super relevant how, but and one of them was a hiring manager, so I didn't get hired. So
Ah.
I had to wait 2 years to be able to interview with them again. And I did, and literally, I mean, I did uh, like I did so much stuff during those 2 years just to get prepared to be able to interview at AWS again.
Yeah.
And but anyway, it's, it's a long story, but bottom line is like, all of that was because I didn't want to work at Google. I didn't want to work at Microsoft. I didn't want to work at Cisco. I didn't want to work at I wanted to work at AWS. I wanted to be on the account management team at AWS. And so it just made it much easier to know kind of what the things I should be thinking about doing are. Who should I be networking with? What things can I be doing that'll look good when I go in and interview there again, and all that. So yeah, I would say well-defined goals is critical. And so the opposite of that is what you shouldn't do. Like, to not
Yeah.
have well-defined goals.
I think it's tough though. Like I struggled for a lot of years. Like I was into self-help books and all sorts of things for years and years. And looking back, I realized that I was basically looking for a shortcut that didn't exist. Right. And so I did all those things. I did the vision boards and the goal setting and the SMART goals and like all the different things. I went through all the little frameworks and it never ever worked. And the
Mhm.
reason I think it was is because I wasn't really being honest with myself about what I wanted. I was picking goals that sounded cool or that I thought others would think were cool. But I wasn't, I thought my actual interests weren't, I wanted recognition of others and approval of others more than I really like wanted to know what I really cared about. Right. So I think when you say that, it's really interesting because for years I would hear that, right? Hey, once you get your goals, like everything falls into place. And I'm like, bull crap. Like I tried that a billion times and it never worked. Um, but once I actually figured out and was like, hey, I screw it, screw the world, screw everybody. I don't care. I just want like, what do I actually want? Because I'm tired of failing. What do I want? And I got to that point where I put myself against the wall. And then when I was honest with myself and I set the goals that I actually cared about and started taking action towards it, things did fall into place. And you illustrated it really perfect because you had eyes set on your mindset on AWS. And hey, you didn't get it the first time. No problem. You know the experience you need now. You know who you need to network with. You know how the interview process goes, what questions they're going to ask, and now you have a couple years to prepare. And you know what I mean? So I love the way you laid that out because that's what that's what he means. That's what people mean when they say, "Hey, once you have your goals, it'll all fall into place." Not tomorrow, but you'll know what to do.
People need to have like the biggest problem that people have in life in general, in my opinion. Well, I mean, people have a lot of problems, but but one of them related to people's careers and and accomplishing things is people do not have a long view. People can't see 2 years out. They can't see 3 years out. And so I mean, I still haven't, I still didn't get hired at AWS. I mean, it's still, I mean, even as of like, very recently, I was still kind of in, circling that. I'm not really 100% sure if I'm going to go back to doing anything outside of what I'm doing now.
Hmm.
But anyway, it's neither here nor there. But a better example would be the content and, like starting the channel, because I think that the vast majority of people who take on an endeavor like YouTube, but this can be applied to any other thing, is they're like, I'm going to start a channel and I'm going to start. They think about what kind of stuff they want to do. They have ideas of things going viral, and they don't have an they leave things up to external forces, where it's like, okay, well, what's your plan for your channel to grow? How is that going to happen? And they go, well, I'm going to put the content up. I'm going to make sure it's really good. I'm going to do this, this, this. And you're like, okay, so what are you targeting in terms of how are you measuring success? What's a short-term goal? What's a long-term goal? How are you knowing if you're doing well? And what I did is I made my short and long-term goals impossible that someone else could affect them, meaning they weren't tied to user growth. They weren't tied to anything other than things that I could have total control over. So, as an example, when I first started, I started on TikTok, and TikTok was, I mean, not like new, but I started there and I just looked at it. I'm like, all right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I post at least one video a day for 2 years, and let's just see what happens. And by, month number, I mean, it starts slow, and then all of a sudden in month 5, or month, I don't know, 3, 4, it starts blowing up. But that's after posting multiple videos every single day for multiple months. And then when it starts snowballing, you're like, wow, this is actually happening. And I realized at that point that you can't make any money on TikTok. We're like, no professional TikTokers unless you get into the stratosphere. And so I'm like, okay, well, the no-brainer then is to move to YouTube. And so I go to YouTube, and it's the exact same thing. It's like, I'm going to post a video every single day for 2 years. Like I'm going to invest the money to have a decent setup, and I'm going to post every single day for 2 years. And then I'll assess where I'm at, and I'll use the following I have on TikTok to try to drive people over, and I'll implement a bunch of strategies that I think will be effective, which subsequently turned out to be very effective. But my goal setting were all things that I could control. I can't control whether or not I get to 10,000 subscribers. I can't control that. All I can do is implement the strategy. If it works, it works. But there's no way for me to fail if I'm in control of what I'm setting out to do. It can't
Mm.
fail. Oh, you only have
Yep.
2,000 subscribers? Okay, well, I did all the things that I said I was going to do. And so that, I mean, if you think about things like that, because this is the thing about sales too, everybody knows what it takes to succeed. You know, if you really ask any salesperson in any role, you're like, look, dude, if you sent 50 in mails on LinkedIn every day, 5 days a week for an entire year to generate pipeline, do you think that you'll hit your number? They'll be like, yeah. You're like, correct. You know, especially if I'm not talking about like just copy paste. I'm talking 50 strategically thought out, well structured outreach. I mean, you don't have to do each one custom, but 50 every single day. That's your baseline. You wake up in the morning, you do it, it'll take you 2 hours. So you do that every day, 5 days a week, or even just 4 days. Forget 5. Do 4 days a week. Are you going to hit your number? 100%. Correct. But people don't do that, you know, because they think about their deals. They think about whether or not, you know, like, oh, if I could close this, then XYZ, everybody falls into it. But the
Yeah.
correct way to approach it is to set your goals against things that you can control. And
Mm-hmm.
then you'll generally smash your number. Just like I smashed my YouTube goals. I mean, my goals were so nebulous with this. They had nothing to do with uh followers or subs or money or any of that. I knew that would all fall into place, you know, if I was successful. But like what I visualized is I was like, I want to be able to do a video and know for sure that Chael Sonnen's going to watch it. Like I want to be able to talk in a video and know that anybody that I'm talking about is going to see the video. And I've accomplished that now. Like I can't do a video without assuming that the person I'm talking about will see it, because 9 out of 10 times they do.
Yeah.
And so, you know, again, like, I mean, that's what I would suggest to people.
Yeah.
Goals that you can control.
That's really, I love that tip, man, because a lot of times we get so married to the outcome that when it falls short of that, now we're a failure. When in reality, it's like you can't control that, dude. You can control
Mm-mm.
what you do. You know, that's what you get to control. I love that. That's fantastic. Okay. And I want to rewind a bit. So you were talking earlier about when you were, you know, you had your job and you were starting the channel and you have a family, right? So you have a lot of things going on: work, wife, kids, YouTube channel. And I remember watching you and thinking that, because I've done side hustles as well. And I'm just like, how is he putting out this much content? Because he works, he's got kids, he takes him to jits every day, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
you have a lot going on. And obviously you had your mind set on something, you had your goals defined, but then you got to get down to the nitty gritty and actually produce work, right? So, w- any tips on that, like how to make that happen with all the different things? Because you're not a single guy that can just do whatever he wants. You have a lot of stuff going on.
So I would say I'll just answer this in relation to YouTube and side hustles, etc.
Yeah.
Is again, you want to be able to visualize what your in this case channel is going to look like, and how you're going to be able to deliver on the goals that you set. So for me, my channel is set up the way that it is very intentionally, in that there's very low editing. It's like I sit down, I film. I mean, a lot of that had to do with the fact that I am extraordinarily confident in my ability to be engaging on camera. A single take, like it's a gift, man. I am an absolute incompetent moron when it comes to a very large amount of skills that are extremely valuable in sales job and a lot of other things. But you stick me in front of a camera and tell me to talk about things, I mean, I'll put it up against anybody. And so I knew that, and I was just like, so the I want to be able to just sit down, shoot, film, upload. I want it to be extraordinarily low uh you know, editing time and all that stuff. It's still I mean, so like if I put up a, I don't know, call it a 17-minute video, you could probably tack on an additional 4 minutes of, maybe I started and then I was, okay, I got to start that over. And then probably around 30 30 to, I don't know, 30 to 40 minutes of creating a thumbnail, thinking of the title, exporting, uploading. So I mean, you're talking about less than an hour's work in reality. If I'm and if I'm multitasking, especially, it's like, okay, upload, and then I can do other stuff. And so it was set up to succeed. It was like I set it up to succeed, because if it was going to be a bunch of editing and all that stuff, you couldn't do it while having a full-time job. The other thing too, though, is the pandemic is what enabled me to do this, because I was able to work from home. And it was like, I could have, but I would have really never seen my kids. But yeah, I'm just settling into this kind of being my main deal. That's why I'm kind of like, well, maybe I'll go back, because I was like, I'll just take the rest of the year and just decide. And we don't like, financially, we're fine with where we're at. It's just like, I mean, it's one of those things where, how long is it going to take me to replace the additional income that I was making over here? Not that we need it, but like, if I was doing that before, why not? Yeah, exactly. Why not have both? Yeah. But the thing is, like, as soon as I was like, all right, I'm going to take a run at this thing, the results have been overwhelming in terms of the channel's growth and success since that happened. And so,
yeah,
it's just one of those things where I know in the long term, if this is what I'm going to do, which it will be for sure, the correct play is to focus on this, or at least, but then also like have an executable plan. So what I'm thinking now, as of today, is probably I'm going to take 2023 and just focus exclusively on content. Just pound content, start to chase down different monetization opportunities that I would not have time to do, and just see where we're at in a year. I mean, because that's another thing that a lot of people on YouTube don't do. It's like they build a channel, but they don't really know anything about business. They know how, like, they'll create a successful channel, and you could just tell they're like, I know how to make content. And it's like, I mean, that's great. You build a big enough subscriber base, it's irrelevant. Like, you can make outlandish money, some of these guys. But if you're a business-minded, entrepreneurial person with experience in business development, you can look at what you're doing and start and think strategically. You're like, okay, so I could bring in additional money here. I could set this up over here. I could sell another show over here to this production company. I could do this, and all of those things while bringing in money. Also, expand your brand and decrease the amount of time it's going to take before you're kind of a mainstream brand where everything's coming to you.
Yeah, that makes sense. That is, yeah, I mean, that goes back to thinking long term too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I mean, planning it out. There's something to be said with just, ready, fire, aim, but at the same time, if you want it to last, you do have to plan that out and have intention
Well, you do
behind all your
both.
decisions. Mm.
You do both. You have to
What do
go.
you mean
You
by
have
that?
to just. Well, you just like. I mean, you got to have a vision for what you're trying to do, but you have to actually do it. Like you have to like start
Yeah,
doing things. You
yeah.
know,
Not be so
people
scared.
are people will plan themselves into oblivion. You know, oh, I'm gonna like I really want to do blah blah blah, and then they just never do it. It's like, but like on the long view, it's everything. You know, jujitsu. When I moved to Texas, I had done tons of martial arts and basically no jujitsu. And you know, Austin is the jujitsu capital of the world now. I'm like, am I going to live in Austin and be a person not in that community when one of my really good friends is the number one pound for pound jujitsu fighter in the world? Like, that just seems ridiculous. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, so I can buckle down and I could train 5 to 6 days a week for 7 years and I'll be a black belt. And it's like, all right, well, let's rock and roll. So
Let's do
I'm,
it.
you know, now I don't know, it'll be 2 years in April into
What belt are you
into
now?
I'll be well, so I would have been a blue belt last month,
But
but I'm 99% sure they're gonna belt me up at the Austin Open in 3 weeks. They want like I'm
to
pretty
blue?
sure to blue. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Sorry, I
Pretty
missed that.
sure that they were gonna do it at the last tournament, and then neither of my opponents showed up. That's a that's a that's a curse of having an online, you know, combat sports brand where like your white belt opponents Google you, watch your videos, and they're like, Jesus, I don't want to fight this guy. You know, they didn't show. They straight up didn't. They didn't show
Wait,
up. You know,
that's why. Do you think that's why?
guaranteed,
That is
guaranteed.
insane. You're a
They both
jujitsu
no showed.
player. Like, go out there. Are you kidding me? I wouldn't care if I got pummeled into the ground. Like, I'd still
Of
want to
course,
test myself, right?
I mean that's exactly what would have happened. But yeah, you know,
Yeah, 2 years in, you probably are a
I
scary white belt.
oh my god, I'm a nightmare, dude. I'm a nightmare. I'm a nightmare around for most, even like a lot of blue and purple belts that are not in, because really what happened was I trained for almost a year at Gracie Baja
Yeah.
while the Six Blade School was getting set up, and then I got injured. So
Uh,
I had this thing where I had my foot trapped in half guard on this huge dude who's like he had a wrestling background. He's Jesus, man, this guy's got to be 260, and he is athletic, but he was kind of newer in jits. I was a, you know, I was like maybe like 10 months in. So anyway, I had his arm and I was trying to free my foot and go directly into an armbar. And I went like that, and then he like kind of kept my foot a little bit, and then he bridged and flipped me, and I landed straight on my head and neck. And I can't even describe what it felt like. It was like, did you play football?
uh, just 8th grade.
Do you know what
I
a
don't know if
stinger
that
is?
counts.
Do you know what a stinger
No.
is?
Mm-mm.
So it's like it's where you get your neck and head crushed in, and like this their nerve that's like right there gets damaged, and it, oh my god, man. I've done kickboxing a lot, boxing a lot. I've done like tons of different things where I'm smashing into things. Like I've been hurt plenty of times. I've never been instantly injured, like where I was like, where I just knew immediately like I'm injured. Like this is like
Yeah.
I'm injured now. And it was like, I mean, I ripped my gi off like I was like it was on fire, like because that's what it felt like. Honestly, it felt like my entire right side of my body, from my neck down to my kind of torso on the right side, was literally on fire. So it hurt so bad. And then I just laid on the ground, and like, everybody started panicking because they saw me land on my head, and then I reacted like that. Dude, I don't spaz out like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I couldn't feel temperature on this side of my body on the back for almost 4 weeks. Like you could melt an
Whoa.
ice cube on my back and I wouldn't have felt it except for the water. But
Right.
so I if I would have stayed there, I would have belted up a year ago. I would have been a blue belt a
Mm,
year ago in Gracie Baja. But then, so when I came back from injury, I went over to. Oh wait, is that right? A year ago. Anyway, so I went over to Six Blades as soon as they opened, and then started there. So it was like I basically delayed myself, a good
right.
like about a year.
Yeah.
But it's because again, long view.
Yeah.
I don't want to belt up at Gracie Baja if I know I'm going to Six Blades. Like I'd rather put the extra year in, have them belt me up, and then I get to do the entire journey with the team that I'm going to be on the whole time. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
I'm a
Now,
thousand times better now than I was then. Like
yeah.
whatever, I don't, belts are totally irrelevant. Like right,
Yeah. Yeah.
because Victor Hugo is my main professor and Steve Hargett. Like Victor Hugo's the best fighter in the world in a gi, and then
Yeah.
Steve is number one pound for pound in the world in my age and weight class. And those are the
Wow.
guys who I learn from every single day. I would demolish that version of myself. I would have absolutely no chance against me now. You know,
Oh man,
but
you're making me miss it, dude. I only did it for about 18 months, but the schedules just didn't line up and I ended up, leaving, but it's so fun, man. The atmosphere, like just getting better at something and like having the funny thing is with jits is those guys are such good dudes. Like
yeah, of
I've never
course,
been to a
yeah,
jit school where they're like, like they're so cool,
hmm,
best guys ever.
yeah,
I guess guys and gals. I see things through the male lens, so I say guys all the time. But
yeah.
regardless, you're making me miss it. That's awesome, dude.
It's the
I
best, man. It's also, I mean,
uh,
it's tough though. Like, you plateau and I mean, I remember having a conversation with one of my buddies. He's a really good buddy of mine. He's a purple belt at Six Blades, really good dude. And I remember I was like, man, I'm like, I don't feel like I'm getting better. Like I feel like, like I don't feel like I'm getting better. He's like, I do. He's like, I totally understand. Just trust the system. And then like 2 weeks later, I don't know what happened, dude. It was like a baby learning how to speak English. And it was like all of a sudden, all this shit came together. Oh, sorry. All this stuff
you're
came
good, dude.
together
You're good.
where, and it was like, in one session, I tapped this guy 3 times with a submission I'd never done before. It was like, I got it. And then it was like, oh, I've got it. And then it was this transition where I was transitioning from this position onto the back. I kept putting myself in the same position and it kept working. And I was like, I don't, I don't understand. And then the same kind of thing with like butterfly guard, where I
Uh-huh.
started sweeping people from butterfly guard really well, where I was like, oh man, I've got this. Like, so actually that's where that's sweeps. I would, if I had to like break down my jujitsu game, sweeping is probably my worst category, but by far my most effective way to do it is from butterfly guard now.
Sweeps are hard, man. I was never great at it either. I mean, I'm sure your year ago version would destroy me at my best, but uh it's tough. But the thing is there's something humbling to that though. I think that like jujitsu in a way is kind of like it's like a little microcosm of what life is in general. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
dude, you got to go out there and you have to go and get your teeth knocked in,
Yep.
and you got to do it over and over and over and over again. And then all of a sudden like you're saying, like all of a sudden you explode, and that's the work you get like that's you doing your TikTok uploads or whatever, and then your YouTube and like it you weren't getting a ton of subs right away and all that stuff, but that's it. That's just what it is. And I think that's true in sales and in your career as well. Like your example with AWS, where it's like you went in, you interviewed, you didn't get it, but now you knew what to do to prepare for the next one, and whatever other example you might want to give. But
I've got a good one.
yeah,
I've got a perfect, like, perfect metaphor for it. It's like, so jujitsu is I'll give you an example in the content and then I'll give you a sales example. It's like when I started doing YouTube, I had a decent understanding. Well, no, actually, I was good. I already knew how to edit. Like editing, I had that down. I didn't know how to capture audio separately. I didn't know how to connect my a really good microphone. I didn't know how to effectively thumbnail. I didn't know how to effectively title. And so as I'm doing that stuff, I'm extremely uncomfortable. Like my instinct is like to call, like, who do I know that knows how to set up studios? Let me call them and have them come set up my studio, or let me call someone and have them teach me how to do, or not even teach me, just do it. Like, have someone else do it. And I just fumbled my way through all of it until I became an expert at all of it. And now I run my channel top to bottom 100% by myself, where, I don't know. I mean, honestly, aside from maybe MMA Guru, I don't know almost any well-known channel. I think Mexican martial arts also probably. But aside from us, that, like, all of these guys have like teams that they hire. And all the people are doing is stuff I know how to do because I forced myself to learn it. And like in in sales, when you started a new gig, it's just like that. It is absolutely identical to that, where you're getting on your first call. Maybe you have like a more seasoned person on and you're listening to them. And then it's like, okay, this is your first call, you're going to lead, and you're fumbling through it. You don't really know the material very well. You don't know what questions to ask. I mean, you might maybe know what questions to ask, but when it comes to delivering a valuable response to their questions, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't even know if what I said just made sense. But that feeling is literally identical to the I don't know what I'm doing, and then you just learn it. It's like, and one thing I could say from my career, having done so many different things, is that is a universal experience, and it always has a universal outcome every single time. It's like, you're going to feel, the more you feel uncomfortable in a way where you wish that you could have someone seasoned come in and do it for you, every time, in very short order, you end up being the seasoned person. And it doesn't take that long, but it's extremely uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. And so you just need to embrace that feeling, knowing that you're going to have a good outcome. And that's exactly what jiu-jitsu is like. It's exactly like that. Absolutely exactly like that. Where you're like, you're like, I don't know, trying to figure out an armbar from the bottom. You're like, man, I don't understand. Like, why can't I figure this out? And people keep pulling it out, and then you get smashed and they pass your guard. And then all of a sudden one day you figure out, you're like, oh, I need to shift my hips this way. And then boom, you just start getting them every time. And you're like, it's just some dumb thing that you weren't doing correctly. And then you've got it. It's exactly the same. Exactly the same.
Yeah, you're right, man. You're spot on. Dude, I've been saying this a lot on my podcast here lately, but I'm like, I want to just talk for the rest of the day with you about this stuff, but I'll go ahead and wrap it up here so you can get back to your family. I think I forgot to mention this before we hit record, but after we hit stop, we'll hang out for a bit after, just to make sure the files upload properly. But before we go, I want to give you a chance to let people know where they can find you, see your content. Obviously, I'm going to link up your YouTube channels, but just anywhere that they can connect with you and learn about what you have going on.
Sure. Yeah, I got my main focus are my two YouTube channels, Jesse on Fire, Jesse on Everything. And then on Instagram, Jesse on Fire, although I'm terrible at DMs. If I follow someone, I'm great with DMs because I get them in my primary. If I don't follow them and it goes into requests, I'm terrible. But email, I have my email listed in my video descriptions on YouTube, and I'm very good at responding to those. And then Twitter, I'm on Instagram and on Twitter, I'm Real Jesse on Fire. And then I think I'm the same on TikTok, although I post there extremely rarely because they despise me and they limit my reach every time now. Cause I got so many community guidelines violations that they actually deleted my account and then they gave it back. But, I get like, I have 300,000 subscribers and I get like 2,000 views every time. Like they've got some super restrictor on my account, but
crazy.
TikTok and me are not culturally aligned. You know, like they
Yeah.
guidelines strike me for stuff where I'm like, what? Like, what? How is that a guidelines violation? They guidelines violation me for a video where I like, so I get into like weird hobbies. I had a big knife throwing target, you know, like a big wood like target, like you know the restaurants have like the axe throwing. So I had one of those. I had one of those in my backyard, and I did a TikTok where I, you know, threw a throwing knife, you know, and it was like, I mean, obviously it was an awesome throw. That's why I posted it. But
Right.
it was that's all it was. It was a knife throw that stuck perfect. And I said something about a zombie apocalypse, and the community guidelines striked it and said I was promoting dangerous acts. I'm like, what?
Dude, you were basically telling people to murder each other, dude. I don't know how you missed that.
Yeah, they're all, how are people not going? People can't decipher between a wooden target, zombies, and a regular human. They did another one. I shot a BB gun in my backyard. Same thing. Dangerous things. And like
A BB
you know,
gun.
one day you're allowed to swear. The next day they strike you. It's just like, it's, I mean,
Are you
TikTok-
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say TikTok. I am absolutely convinced that TikTok is a wide sweeping psyop that China is using to try to undermine and destroy our culture. I really believe that. I think that is like, just based on what they promote and what they restrict, because like they don't want strong people. Like they don't want strong Americans. They want feeble, you know, little people who say things like you can't define what a woman is. You're all, I'm pretty sure you can, dude. Pretty sure that you can. That's and they're trying to just inject that nonsense into the population. And what's crazy is this is the problem, is like the people who know that and are objective are grown-ups. And we look at this and we're like, okay, these ideas are ludicrous. Like obviously, you know, these ideas are ludicrous. And like I always say, like with the long view, they don't understand that kids are dumb little morons that are going to see this stuff, and because China has the long view. Okay, they know they could sit here and let this seep in for 15 years until all of a sudden you're the old person, and by then they're telling you that you're an old transphobe because you said that you can actually define what a woman is based on their born biological genitalia. You know, like it will work. Like it's going to work if we don't. Like I think we should just get rid of TikTok completely. Like just axe it.
Yeah, dude. I mean, actually, I would love to talk to you about this, you know, a whole nother thing, but yeah, I agree with you. Do you want me to link up on there for everyone listening? Do you want me to link up the IRL and the what was the other one that was kind of like a
Swagit?
Swagit. Yeah.
I have a partnership with them where I have carte blanche to say whatever I want.
There you go. So that's where the real stuff is.
We'll see how long that lasts.
I actually haven't watched too much on there yet. I've seen a couple, but
the only thing that I really can talk about there that I can't talk about anywhere else is related to the Balenciaga stuff. I won't poison this podcast with it though.
Fair enough. That's a poisonous topic for sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks again. We'll go ahead and stop the recording here and say bye to all the listeners, but we'll chat afterward here.